All right, guys. Today is just gonna be a little bit different. Just shifting gears a little bit. I've been realizing that I'm spending a lot of time talking about the technical side of behavior analysis. We've gone through the skill acquisition portion of the task list, and I never took the opportunity to really define the terms applied behavior analysis and RBT, BCBA, all these terms that I've been kind of throwing around these past couple of months. I haven't really given you guys a concrete definition. Yeah, maybe you could just scoot a little bit, Willie. Thank you, Willie. Thank you. Yeah. So we'll be doing a little bit of that. We'll be looking at a brief history of the field of behavior analysis, the ethics code given by the ACB, and just relating that to what you guys are, or all of us are going to be pretty much expected to do by now. Not just Alta, CBS, HCBS, Department of Mental Services, but also now the Behavior Analyst Board Certification Board. Okay, beginning with ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis. This is the science of behavior used in application, which means we use it to try to bring about socially significant behavior change. Now, yes. Now, the reason why we emphasize socially significant is we can teach somebody to do all kinds of things. Some things, as you guys may recognize, may be more useful than others. Perhaps solving a jigsaw puzzle may not be the most pressing thing to do if the individual doesn't have a way to request that jigsaw puzzle, or any other things that can come to mind that are so essential to live as a properly functioning adult. And we briefly touch on the functions of behavior, and we're going to return to that idea. Yes. Asking these questions, why behavior is occurring. Behavior analysis gives us this great framework to try to not just understand what could be associated with why a particular behavior is happening, but finding the causal variables, so the reasons why the behavior is occurring. Yeah, right now, the ABA is sort of the tried and true standard for autism treatment and helping those with developmental disabilities and individuals that we serve. But ABA at its current state, I would even go as far to say it's still not perfect, but with its application, the science is still improving as the year goes by, as we do more research. But in the past, applied behavior analysis was not even an option on the table. I was told earlier that you guys did watch the documentary on the Willowbrook Institution a few weeks back. And if you recall just how inhumanely those individuals were treated, that form of approach that comes to handling those with developmental disabilities is something that's, we hope, is a far cry from what we have now. If you recall to some of the things that they were doing to them in that institution, it was a lot of punishment-based procedures. I think I mentioned response costs yesterday when we were talking about token economies, where something is taken away in order to have a behavior stop reoccurring. Imagine that, but that being the only type of intervention you would utilize. And it was not just Willowbrook, but this was all over the place. And whenever the reason why we have this perception that there are much more people with disabilities nowadays compared to in the past, it's not that they came out of nowhere and started coming about more rapidly as of late. No, it's the fact that they were hidden away from society. Right now, we have a much more focus and emphasis on community integration. So they're a lot more apparent in the community, whereas before they were completely out of sight. Yeah, this is going on same ideas that the quote unquote treatments that they were administered had absolutely no form of reinforcement, had no sense of trying to utilize what motivated the individuals, uh, what drove them, what gave them meaning. Instead, it was simply what we refer to as default interventions or punishment based procedures without even giving a damn about what the cause of, of the function of behavior is. And then I think last time Jan covered this, she did a good job highlighting the legislative effects of the deinstitutionalization here in the US. But what I'm trying to emphasize here is the form of treatment that these individuals are received is now much more focused on reinforcement as opposed to punishment, trying to make their lives better as opposed to just keeping them out of trouble. Yeah. So the very beginning of behavior analysis, I would say, really started with this researcher named B.F. Skinner. He was an incredibly influential psychologist. I think that the American Psychological Association has him ranked as the 20th most important in the world's history. So he has that going for him. And when it comes to the modern perception of the behavior analytic framework, he really did begin to do research that emphasized the concept of reinforcement. Because prior to him, we didn't have this notion that we do things for a particular consequence. Something that we've talked about as extensively throughout these past couple of weeks. We can even take for granted at times that some of the procedures that we use are completely based on reinforcement for its consequences. But when Skinner was doing this research back in the 40s and 50s, this was incredibly revolutionary. And he was doing this primarily with pigeons and rats and these kinds of animals. And then for later on, we were able to apply those same principles to humans. And here's a little quote I like from him. The way positive reinforcement is carried out is more important than the amount. I think that is something we all can resonate with. So that is B.F. Skinner. And just for the sake of brevity, there are a bunch more behavior analysts that I can talk about. Murray Sidman, Don Baer, all these guys who have revolutionized the field, but we'll just take it to the main figure, B.F. Skinner. And then, yeah, as recent as 1968, the field of behavior analysis really did define itself with acknowledging 7 dimensions or the components to effective behavioral treatment. I just picked an arbitrary, the 3 most prevalent, the ones we are going to be focusing on a little bit more. But for those who are curious, there are 7 dimensions. So we have behavioral, so being able to look at a behavior and try to measure it out and make it observable. Applied, so it has to be socially significant. You can't just teach somebody whatever. T for technological, which means that you make a procedure and multiple people who run the same behavioral intervention can implement it just by following the steps. There's conceptually systematic, which means it's based on the evidence brought about by research in behavior analysis. And then, yeah, analytic, data-based. And then T for technological, no, that page. G for generalization, what we talked about a few weeks ago. And then E for effective. It has to be effective. So those are the dimensions of behavior analysis as we know it. Yeah, again, coming back to this idea that behavioral interventions should be based on being positively reinforcing, giving individuals access to the things that they want, things they desire, the things that give them meaning. And behavior reduction, in terms of eliminating problem behavior, and skill acquisition are simply two sides of the same coin. We can kind of think of it as doing one or the other, but in teaching the alternative skills that they need, we then reduce problem behavior of occurring. And I wanted to show you guys a video of, well, I think capture this idea beautifully. This is from Dr. Patrick McGreevy, who I was muted. The video is muted. And this is one of the assessment tools that I use for writing the BIPs. And he was the one who created it along with his partner, Troy Fry, another behavior analyst. So let's take a look.
There are several skills in essential for living that are there because of individual children where I screwed up, and oh, it bothers me. One of my very first behavioral projects, I taught a young lady to respond to her name. Many of you have heard me tell that story of Janet, because she bolted out of the classroom and was headed for the highway on the second day of school in 1968, and I had to tackle her on the grass to avoid getting to the highway, where she would have had no regard for a car. And so I sat with her knee to knee, and I taught her with artificial whipped cream. I taught her how to respond to her name very slowly. 4 years later, Janet died. She came back home. I was in graduate school, and she came back home one day from school. She lived in a group home. She was such a large person. The mother and dad had trouble toileting her. She had never toilet trained. And imagine what the monthly period is like. If your mother is 5'2" and you are 5'9" and weigh almost 200 pounds, and that's the size of your mother, and her father wasn't much taller, how are they going to manage her? So they had placed her in a group home because they just physically and couldn't find anybody to come in the home to do it. She came home one afternoon after school, went upstairs before anybody realized it into the group home, went into the bathroom, turned the hot water on in the tub, slipped and fell in the tub and died of shock instantly. All because she didn't know the difference between the hot and the cold water faucet. And that skill is innocent for living. Boy, I wish to hell I had taught that. I could have saved a life if I had taught that, but I didn't. And it was a long while before I never taught Janet a man either. Wish to hell I'd done that. But you can't look back. It doesn't help. You can learn from your lessons and dedicate yourself to doing other things. I'm on a mission right now to convince most of the world. In fact, Troy and I are going to the Verbal Behavior Conference in Austin tomorrow. See? And if it's like it was last year, there'll be most of the other presenters will be researchers, young PhDs who are showing their new research, and most of it will be on higher functioning kids with autism, higher than the kids that we generally talk about. See? And then you think to yourself, and so I'm on this mission. I'm going to try to convince more and more and more people that verbal behavior is more important for these kids than even the higher level kids. When you don't have much of a language repertoire, the function of your language matters. It does. It matters a lot. And even more so than kids that they're worried about whether they can teach them joint control. Whether or not somebody who can hand you a fork when it's on the table in front of you, but can't go across the room and get 4 forks if you ask them. You know, it'd be nice if you could get that skill. Of course, that's an advantage. But you could sure as hell live without that. But you can't live without man's. I've told you guys this story that Jack Michael used to tease me. I think I told it yesterday. Why do we say it's all about man's? Because it is. Jack liked that answer better than the long one.
Yeah, the mans he's referring to are requests. That's the technical way to say requests. But yeah, I really resonate with that. There are many times I look back, especially when I was in RBT, and thinking of how there could have been so many other different approaches I could have taken when working with the clients that in some ways fell short of, especially what I could do now. But I think it's, as he said, it's important not to look back and instead go forward. Okay, before we talk about the BACB, any questions regarding ABA, science of behavior? Okay. Yeah, as the field began to grow, he referred to Jack Michael and some other researchers. The prominence of the science became much more ubiquitous, but along with that, people started practicing ABA. But whenever you have this form of treatment that especially geared towards a vulnerable population like the ones we work with, it's really important to have a regulatory body to administer certifications and set guidelines and criteria to be able to say that, oh, this individual has the proven training and education needed in order to refer to themselves as that position they're claiming. So that is what the BACB is, the Board Analyst Certification Board. Now, the BACB does a number of things. So, for instance, it protects consumers, primarily the clients. It develops the test task list, or what is now referred to as the test content outline. There is an ethics code that everybody who is registered in the BACB has to follow. And along that note, everybody who has the registration can be looked up. That's very good. Yeah, so let's take a look at these a little bit more closely. So one example of the few ways that the BACB protects clients is you're able to report misconduct directly to the board. That way, if there's any unethical activity or anything that can really harm a client, this can then be presented to the board and they can take the action to either provide the individual who committed the unethical act either more training or revoke their certification so they can no longer consider themselves an RBT, a BCBA. And I actually had to do this very recently. I may have shared this with a few of you, but my previous supervisor, I got it reported in November that his certification as a supervisor, a BCBA supervisor, was expired. So I thought, okay, well, I wish he would have told me sooner. And none of the hours that I have collected in November had counted because his certification wasn't up to date. As it turns out, I found out this from the service that connected us that his certification expired back in August. So for 3 months, this guy has been leading me on that he was certified to be a supervisor when he had no credentials to do so. So I ended having to report him to the board, and fortunately, I was able to recuperate some of the monetary gain that I had. But yeah, those about 300 hours completely just went down the drain because of him. Yes, Willie.
when you revoke your certification permanently, the practitioner is criminally or civil liability?
That'll depend on the state. All the board can do is say that you can no longer practice as that
Uh,
as a practitioner. Yeah,
so they will not
yeah,
make
yeah.
civil
And
cases or what?
no, yeah, that'll be led to the state or the private parties that have been inflicted by that.
Okay.
Yeah, because with the board, let's say you did something incredibly unethical as an RBT,
Mhm.
you have your certification revoked, and most likely you won't be able to get it back. You can no longer be an RBT. You can, and no agency or no clinic or day program is probably going to hire you because of that suspension. So that's how seriously those can be considered. But yeah, I like to look at the silver lining. I'm really happy with my current supervisor. Okay, let's move on. Ah, yes. The test content outline or the test list. This is essentially everything that you need to know in order to perform your duties or tasks either as a BCBA or an RBT. The most recent edition is the one that they administered in January of this year. So we have the latest up to date version, which now more or less emphasizes more ethical practice.
How often is it revised?
Every few couple of years, 3 or 4. It's a complete nightmare when they change the BCBA test outline, though, because I get into that in a bit when I talk about the BCBA certification. But suffice to say, yeah, they change it every now and then to kind of hone in on the things that are important for practitioners to know. And if you noticed throughout the slides that I made where it says C1, C10, all of that is coming straight from the task list. Yeah, so why don't we take a peek at the sections of the RBT task list. So these are going to be some of the things that are going to be expected for you guys to demonstrate competency in, and it's already things that you guys already do somewhat regularly to begin with, so it's not anything that should be too surprising. The first section is with measurements, so collecting data in the form of frequency, duration, latency, continuous and discontinuous data. We'll talk more about that as the weeks come by. Participating in assessments, so along with uh, providing me feedback for some of the proposed goals that we may incorporate for some of the clients, being able to do preference assessments, so finding the things that the individual may like in order for that to be used as a reinforcer. So then we can implement reinforcement strategies. Scale acquisition, essentially what we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks, using the teaching procedures such as chaining, shaping, discrete trial training, natural incidental teaching, all that stuff. And then the last 3 components, behavior reduction, so being able to incorporate the procedures from a BIP, documenting and reporting things to the appropriate objective degree and to the appropriate individuals, and emphasis on maintaining competency within your scope of practice. A little peek into the code of ethics. Now, I actually had to take an entire course on the BACB's code of ethics. Lasted about 3 months. But and we broke it down each one of the components that are crucial here. But the main edifice of the code are these 4 points. Probably the most important thing is to be able to benefit others, whether that's the client or the stakeholders or the interdisciplinary team. Your work in behavior analysis should always bring the best in people, uh, and it should never be a cause of debate, be something to fight over. Yeah, ultimately, it is about being able to provide that social significant behavior change. Then, of course, being able to behave with integrity. So, doing the things that are asked of you, being able to take the data when you need to, being there for the client, etc. Ensuring competency, so only doing the things that you were trained to do. Even for me, I'm constantly getting trained to do new things with my supervisor. So those things that I have not done yet, I try not to steer closely to doing until I get the proper supervision and guidance. And of course, being able to treat others with compassion, dignity, respect. Come back to the idea of benefiting others, but extend it to everybody because I don't think anything can ruin quite the uh, professional relationship quite as acting rudely or ill mannered. And being able to see the person for who they are as an individual as opposed to their conditions or diagnoses. Any questions regarding the code of ethics? Any comments? You guys think there's anything missing in that? Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I think it's pretty thorough once you get through all of it. Because again, these are just the individual sections, and then it breaks them down even further. Okay. Yeah, and the BACB also gives the certifications for the practitioners who are registered with them. So you begin at the RBT level. This one simply requires a high school diploma and then the 40-hour training. It's pretty much what we're doing right now, and directly implementing the goals that the client would have in their behavior intervention plan. And to be honest with you guys, I look very fondly at my time as an RBT. I think that was such a great enriching experience to be able to really focus and develop that quality professional relationship with the clients and really work through them. Plus, I may have already shared with you guys some of the stories I had when working with children, which, again, not something I'll probably ever forget. This next one's a little bit less common. It's the BCABA. This is the board certified assistant to the behavior analyst. And as far as what my current position is equated to, this one probably is the one that I get to the closest. Undergraduate level, so it requires at least a bachelor's, and then is under the supervision of a BCBA and assists them in doing the training and supervision. And then, BCBA or doctoral level, BCBAD, this is where you're able to conduct the assessments alone, be able to offer the trainings, and not require supervision on your behalf. So those are the various positions that the board administers. Yeah, and again, it kind of comes down to just the importance of the RBT position. Because even with me, even though I'm starting to come every day, I don't quite interact with the clients to the same degree that you guys do. You guys really do gain that great insight with when you interact and develop your relationship with the clients. And all of that, for me, just serves to not just grow in our collaboration, but also be able to come up with solutions and troubleshoot for the client's behavior intervention plans. And I think that about does it. Oh, I have one more video. Then after that, we can probably shoot to some questions. Yeah. This is just a video I enjoyed. Again, highlighting the necessity of using ABA with adults. I think I've been hammering time and time again just how much more prominent these types of services are for younger children. But it's also important to see it when it's applied in the adult setting.
This individual, he was about to turn 18. I inherited him from a BCBA, highly aggressive. He wore a full restraint to go on the bus. He had a lot of episodes of scratching. The BCBA before me, who was a tall male, he had scars on his face from this individual, and I'm thinking, what am I getting into? And so I thought, I'm just going to adapt exactly what the programming is that the BCBA has and just run from there. Like, he's figured stuff out. I want to keep that. I want to run from here. Mom, exact opposite. Yeah. She's like, nope, I want to scrap all of it. I want him to be able to go to the YMCA and walk on a treadmill. Okay. Like, what? Let's take this highly, highly aggressive person into the public and, and I asked, has he walked on a treadmill before? No. How far can he walk? Not really far at all. Because he not only had autism, he also had Down syndrome. So there was a whole lot of everything going on. And so what was very cool was I outlined the program to the mom of these are the steps I would take. And I said, the very beginning is we're just going to go in the parking lot and leave. I said, I have them for this many hours a day. Like, we can do other things too. She's like, no, I just want this. Sure. And so we started out we go in the parking lot, then start out slow. Fast forward 6 months later, this guy can go walk from the car independently, go in, check himself in, go to a treadmill, wait for me to set it, walk for 30 minutes, totally fine, with a visual timer. When the timer goes off, he cheers and stops the treadmill, good to go. And he was just like, all right. And so it just, I don't know, it gave me a different view of like, not only just what the parent wants, but also the power of behavior analysis. Yeah. Like, something that I thought was going to be super impossible became possible. Yeah. Now, is that possible for everything? No. But also, it just, I don't know, it super encouraged me to see what can anyone we work with do. Yeah, for sure. You don't know. With the task analysis, anytime we went to a new thing, we saw scratching at home super increase, and then as we got through it, okay. But then the last time I checked in with this family, he hasn't had any instances of physical aggression in months. Yeah. Is it because we walked on a treadmill? Maybe. We worked on functional communication along the way. He also goes to school. There are a lot of things and factors, but it was so cool just to see, you may not be working on the exact thing that you think you're aiming at, but it can also
have these indirect effects. It just kind of increases quality of life. Yeah, 100%. Sweet. Hell yeah. This feels cool. Do you have anything else? I like this.
I can talk about this for days. It's where you'll have to.
All right, well, I'll spare you guys the endless discussion here. But yeah, that is behavior analysis in a nutshell.
Doctor of Science.
Mm-hmm.
BCB, Doctor of Science,
If I may share a similar story that I've encountered in one of the care homes. When I first started going there, the client, he doesn't really like visitors. Even if he warmly greets you and says hi to you, I want to say, first day I was there, he would start 20 minutes in whispering bye-bye as he's passing by me. And I could hear him say even louder, when he goes into the hallway towards his room. And he starts slowly escalating, and he starts stomping his feet as he does it. And as the minutes go on, he gets louder and louder to the point where he's yelling out, "Bye bye, bye bye," and won't stop until I leave. So there was this one day where I wanted to beat him to the punch. And right around the time he was started saying the initial bye-byes, I went and followed him to his room and asked him if he wanted to listen to some music. Because I know that one of his roommates, a little bit more higher functioning, likes to put on music for him to help him calm down. So then I offered to do it. And then I was there with him, and he just kind of had to tolerate me being in his presence. I did look out if he didn't want me to be there, if there were any signs. But he was completely fine with it. And I kid you not, after that, he has not said bye-bye. and there were times where he would say it as he passes by, but it became much less frequent. Until now, he started coming up to me and asking me for music, or I would get his roommate to do it. And sure enough, it has been months since he said bye-bye. So doing these kinds of things that may just seem to be getting him to, again, increase his requesting, getting him to tolerate your presence, kind of leads to just these other effects that increase their flexibility. So you never know what happens when you have someone ask for a song, or in the case of the video, go on the treadmill for a few minutes. So those are always cool. Anybody experience anything similar? Those of you who in the care homes? Vaughn, yeah, you have anything like that?
Yeah, yeah. My what's second job. It's a group home. It's a specialized residential facility. It's higher than level 6.
Mm.
So, but they are mostly autism. So the 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 male resident there, he's not he's ignoring me when I first came there, and now I'm his favorite staff. he he personally asked me to assist him in his task whenever I'm there.
Mm. How did you win him over?
Um, I offer him the I introduced him the reggae songs. So that's his favorite. He has a specific reggae songs, 2024 reggae songs on YouTube.
There you go.
Yeah, but he can from now on that when I introduce that to him, he cannot function in the gym because we're bringing them to the gym every Saturday.
Mhm.
So he's borrowing the facility's cell phone, and that's his motivation to walk for at least 30 minutes.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's impressive. Yeah, those disco miscs, the
Mhm.
reggae. I remember I showed one client. I think I heard it when we were in the lower level during Christmas. The disco medley version of the Christmas songs. I showed it to him, and man, even in mid February, he was still listening to it. Well, he was also wearing his Santa hat still, so for him it was an extended Christmas. But what are you gonna do? Okay. Any other thoughts? Closing questions? Opening the floor to pretty much anything. No. Okay. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, I think if we I think we really everyone here improved with their how we treat our clients with your help. Uh, in implementing the BIPs, also the ISPs. So this is a very helpful trainings for us.
Okay. Yes. Well, I'm doing what I can to improve. And of course, if there's anything else that you guys may want to just ask me in private, I have absolutely no issue with that whatsoever. Because keep in mind that you guys help me just as much as I help you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great weekend, guys.